I think we're going to live in a world where there are going to be hundreds of millions of billions of different AI agents, eventually probably more AI agents than there are people in the world. A lot of what we're focused on is giving every creator and every small business the ability to create AI agents for themselves, making it so that every person on our platforms can create their own AI agents that they want to interact with. And if you think about it, these are just huge spaces, right? So there are hundreds of millions of small businesses in the world. And one of the things I think is really important is basically making it so with a relatively small amount of work, a business can basically, a few taps, stand up an AI agent for themselves that can do customer support, sales, communicate with all their people, all their customers. I think that every business in the future, just like they have an email address and a website and a social media presence today, I think every business is going to have an AI agent that their customers can talk to.
I'm going to be absolutely honest with everybody. I have no sympathy, no tears are going to be shed for anyone that in this era is complaining that their business is not thriving, and yet they are not using AI. They're not using the free tools that are available with a really low learning curve to get up and running. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about AI, specifically ChatGPT. I'll be showing you some prompts and telling you a little bit about prompt engineering. The thing about AI is one of those things that is kind of a catch-all phrase for everything. Sometimes it's not artificial and it's not actually that intelligent. But one of the tools that is available is ChatGPT. Now, I talk a lot about ChatGPT, and in I think it was my second book, Business Mastery for Startups and Side Hustlers, we have a whole chapter where we're talking about utilizing AI. So if you don't know what ChatGPT is a platform that can give you access to some artificial intelligence. There's other platforms. The reason why I speak a lot about ChatGPT is because it was the first platform that I was exposed to, and it's the one that I know the most about. But a lot of the information can be interchanged with the other platforms. I have a book called Easy ChatGPT Prompts for Startups and Side Hustlers. It's a non-technical startup guide, and it talks a little bit about my journey and how my brother-in-law Gareth introduced me to AI and ChatGPT. I'm going to share a few tips that can help you get your game up with ChatGPT. So we use a process called prompt engineering. So I say, if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't ask good questions, then you don't get good outputs. So prompt engineering is the process of just asking better questions and formatting those questions in a way that you can get the very best outputs. Now, there's different ways that people can explain it, but I'll break it down. So one of the things that you want to do when you're creating a prompt or you're asking for information from ChatGPT is you want to let the ChatGPT know what the role is. So, for example, act as a business consultant with 30 years experience. So the role of the ChatGPT is to act as a business consultant so it knows what it's doing. Explain the most common mistakes new entrepreneurs make and how to avoid them. So if you were to ask that question, it's quite specific. It lets the AI know the role that it's taking in that specific task. The next one is the task. So you're telling the AI, you're telling ChatGPT what you want it to do. So, for example, create a step-by-step guide for starting a consulting business with no upfront investment. Now, these are just some guide or sample prompts. You can change these things out. But what's important, you've now given the AI a role and you've given it a task. The next thing that you want to look at is the tone and style. So the tone and style, an example would be, write a LinkedIn post in a motivational tone. You could say in a professional tone or in a humorous tone. So you're telling the AI what tone you want it to have. So it's write a LinkedIn post in a motivational tone for aspiring entrepreneurs about why they shouldn't fear failure when starting a business. There's a saying that that fear will stop you from starting. And then if you want to continue, sometimes you don't feel motivated. And this is one of the things, by using this prompt or asking this question, it can give you some tools to get over that fear of failure. The next one would be format. So you're telling the AI how you want it formatted. So in this example, it says list. So the output that you're going to get will be a list. So list the top 5 most profitable business ideas for 2024, 2025, 2026, whatever year, and explain why they are in demand. If you notice, in each of these prompts, it's quite specific. I find that when people complain about ChatGPT, it's because they're not asking good questions, or they're asking really broad and general questions instead of asking more specific questions that they can get a better output. And I'm going to say that there's another one, which is reference and style, or an example. So you're telling or giving the AI a reference point of what you want the output to look like. So write a business startup checklist in the style of a Forbes article. So Forbes magazine has a specific style. So you're telling the AI you want it in that style. Like if you were writing a music article, you might say in the format of Rolling Stone magazine. You can use anything as an example, but the key is you're now giving it an example. And remember, the first output that you get from the prompt may not be exactly what you want. So you can ask it to iterate, but the starting point in using ChatGPT and most AI is prompt engineering. So I'm showing you your format, your role, your style. These different things are going to help you put together better prompts that you can get better outputs. So here's a prompt template. So this is kind of a catch-all just to convince you about how good the technology is. You could say, act as a insert role. So act as a finance expert, act as a coach, act as a whatever. So you're giving it a role. Write a blog, write a post, write a email, fill in the blank, about topic for specific audience. Now, depending on what you're doing, your writing style might be more advanced. It might be more technical because you're talking to someone like Muhammad, or it might be more conversational because you're speaking to someone like me. The other thing that you can do is ask for the tone, as we mentioned. Keep it under word count. So if you want it to be brief, tell it to be brief. Include specific details, end with call to action. That's a key point. Making sure that in the things, depending on what you're doing, that you're actually stating that you want a call to action. So your call to action might be to click on a link. Your call to action might be to visit a website, but you're giving the AI enough detail, enough specificity to be able to get the type of outcomes that you want. Now, if you're a business owner, one of the best tools that I have ever found is a platform called AppSumo. If you're starting or running a business, you'll find that there's lots of apps out there. And before you know it, you're subscribing to this, you're subscribing to that. It's $9.99 here, $12.99 there. Before you know it, it's hundreds of dollars that you're spending per month. AppSumo is a platform for startups and side hustlers where you have access to new technology, new apps. Some things may work, some things don't. It doesn't matter because there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. I would say probably 80% of the apps that I use in my business, including the app that I'm using right now, which is wave.video, I got on AppSumo. Now, it's priced in dollars, so you will find that maybe the item might cost $29, $39, $49. There's different tiers, there's different levels to the pricing that you'll have. But the great thing about it is you pay once. So you buy it and then you own it. And some of the good apps on there, you'll find that they just continue to evolve. One of the apps that I use is called Publer. And that's what I use for all of my social media posting and my social media dashboard. It allows me to schedule my social media posts. So there's a lot of people that think that I spend a lot of time on social media. Here's a tip. I don't. What I do is I use ChatGPT to help me structure what I'm saying. I then ask it to rewrite it for the different platforms. I schedule it in Publer, and there you go. So these are just some tips to get you up and running with ChatGPT. As I said, if you're not using ChatGPT in your business, if you're hesitant, if you're making excuses, you are setting yourself up for failure, because the company, your competition that is using it is going to have a superpower that you don't have. And as I said, just check out AppSumo. It's a great platform. And if you want to get your business up and running without paying a branding expert and then paying someone else to be your coach and paying someone else to help you with your CRM, please check out the book, Business Mastery for Startups and Side Hustlers. I go through all of the pillars of starting and running a business. I help you run a business that is scalable, sustainable, repeatable, and franchisable. I'm here to help startups that are -6 months to 12 months in business make their first £100,000. And I partner with people like Muhammad and Avail to give you access to people that have run businesses, have started businesses, and have practical advice that they can share with you. And you can also be a part of our Startup and Side Hustlers community.